So next, I'm very pleased to have on the stage Rhett Butler. Rhett, we met probably 15 years ago, I think, in the mid-2000s, and I was so impressed by his vision and goal for telling the stories of nature and conservation. And it's incredible what he's built since founding Mongabay. If you go to mongabay.com, I mean, incredible reporting on nature, 2 to 3 million visitors a month. And I really wanted to interview him, given his journey, given the stories he sees and reports on and his team reports on every day, the state of nature, the state of the stories of nature, and how do we get the information out there, get people activated with the information that he provides. So please join me in welcoming Rhett to the stage. Come on out, Rhett. Thank you. So, wow, quite a journey you've been on. Why did you found Mongabay?
Well, so Mongabay was really born out of my early childhood. I had the great fortune of having a mother who's a travel agent and a father who traveled a lot for business, so I had a lot of miles. And so my family prioritized travel growing up. And I always really liked reptiles and amphibians and felt that the most interesting amphibians and reptiles were in the rainforest. So I would try to lobby my parents to go to the rainforest, and then the first time I was able to do that, I had this incredible experience in Ecuador, stayed with the traditional indigenous community. I came back, and a few months later, there was an article in the newspaper about this huge oil spill that had happened on the Rio Napo upriver from Red Bend. And so what that meant is this whole area was now coated in an oil slick. And so all I could think about is what had happened to my friends in the forest and the animals. And so that's what moved me from being sort of like a casual person who appreciated nature to someone who wanted to do something. But the thing that actually moved me to action occurred when I was in high school. I had another experience where I went to Borneo, went through this absolutely beautiful forest, and I kept in correspondence with the scientists there. And a few months after that, the forest was pulped to make paper, and now it's an oil palm plantation. And so once that forest was destroyed, I wanted to try to do something. So when I started in college, I began writing a book about tropical rainforests to raise awareness. So I spent my college career working on this book, even though my major had nothing to do with journalism or the environment, really. I finished the book. I went to a bunch of publishers. One said they were interested, went through peer reviews. They came back and said, okay, we'd like to publish this, but we don't have money to put pictures in the book. So this will be like a textbook with grayscale images. And to me, that defeated the purpose of what I was trying to do, which was convey the beauty of rainforests and why we should save them. So I decided to post the book online so people could read it for free, and I named it Mongabay after this beautiful island off Madagascar that's very special to me. So that was the origin of the site, but the reality was I wasn't going to run a website for a living, so I got a real job, working in Silicon Valley, but kept working on the site nights and weekends, and then eventually I decided to quit my job and pursue my passion, and that's when Mongabay really started to take off.
So where is it now?
So it's grown quite a bit. So that was 1999 when I started the website. In 2012, I decided to form a nonprofit in order to pursue impactful ideas that there was no sort of business model for from an advertising standpoint. So the first project was launching an Indonesian language news service because I saw Indonesia as being at this potential tipping point where good journalism could really help impact deforestation by addressing like accountability and transparency and corruption. So today, Mongabay has about 80 full-time staff in about 25 countries, and we have a network of 800 journalists in about 80 countries. And
That's
our monthly,
incredible.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
And your monthly, sorry, interrupt.
We have about 4 million monthly visitors coming to the website, but then our reach is greatly amplified because we're a nonprofit, so we give away our content for free for anyone to use commercially or non-commercially. So that means there's a lot of mainstream media outlets, the markets where we work, who republish our stories.
Fantastic. So what kind of impact have you seen just from getting this information out there? Any stories you have or any feedback you've gotten? Oh, we found out about that and we took them to court, or we called out that corporation, or do you have any anecdotes?
Yeah, I mean, so we're a journalism organization, so we're not doing advocacy in a conventional sense, but we are very interested in impact, so we're impact oriented. And so one of the things I think is really cool is that sometimes you can see these really interesting impacts resulting from stories. So one of my favorites is from a few years ago now, but this company had an IPO in London, and they had this message about how they were working sustainably, they weren't cutting any trees, they were engaging with indigenous communities. It was like a nice story. They went public, successful IPO. Meanwhile, Mongabay was using satellite data to track changes in forest cover around the world, and we saw these big polygons popping up, pink polygons popping up in the Peruvian Amazon, which is the most biodiverse part of the Amazon rainforest. And it turned out that that company was actually clearing primary forest for, to produce cacao for chocolate. And so they were not only misleading investors, but also the public. So we came out with a story on this. A bunch of other media outlets built off that reporting. Campaigners started to do advocacy around it. So there are all these different players that started to it formed like a mini ecosystem around this issue. Public prosecutor investigated, turned out the company was doing illegal things. Fast forward 2 years, the company was delisted from London Stock Exchange. The reason that's important is it was trying to raise more capital to clear 100,000 hectares more forest. And so if you translate that to CO2 emissions, that's about 30 million tons of CO2 emissions that was avoided by that going forward. And so I'm not going to say that Mongabay is fully responsible for that, but we played a part in sort of contributing to that outcome. But it was many different players who were involved.
That's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, and it just gives me hope that you're having success, that there are 8 of you out there writing these stories, empowering the public and accountability organizations and prosecutors with the information, which is so hard to track when these things are happening in very remote places. So incredible. Could you speak a little bit about the state of environmental journalism today, generally?
Yeah, so environmental journalism is being affected by the same factors that are influencing all of the media sector. So there's been this transformation where it's become a lot more, there's a lot fewer resources going into like enterprise reporting. So a lot of resources have gone towards sports, news, entertainment, and like financial news. And so it's kind of squeezed out a lot of traditional reporting. So it's been a challenging environment, but I think the two things that are most significant kind of from an environmental journalism standpoint is the rise of authoritarian regimes around the world and this kind of shrinking space for press freedom. And so this manifests in different ways. So in some countries that's media outlets being shut down, journalists arrested, it's kind of arbitrary fines on media outlets, it's journalists being threatened with violence or even killed. So this is challenging all around the world from, everywhere from like Brazil to India to, even the United States, we've had kind of a shrinking space. The other thing is the rise of fake news. So there's two sort of elements to this. One is many audiences now don't really have the ability to discern between actual facts and fake news. So it makes it harder as a journalist to tell a story because you don't really, because audiences don't know what to look for. The other factor of this is governments are using fake news as an excuse to shut down media. And so fake news in some countries is viewed as any news that the government doesn't agree with or that's critical of the government. So that makes it challenging. That said, there are some positive things that are happening. So one of the things is that as more people are affected by environmental degradation, this news is more relevant than ever to more people. And so people are engaging more around environmental content. The other thing is kind of the rise of big data and open source intelligence. So it means there's a lot more places to get good data. So it means that we no longer have ignorance as an excuse for not taking action. So I think it's a very important trend. And then I guess the last thing I would cite is because of this shift there, kind of in the sector, there are new models arising, so there's more collaboration, which means organizations like Mongabay, we're now a nonprofit, we're working with a bunch of partners to distribute our content, reaching a lot more people, so that's a positive trend.
Absolutely. What about trends generally in international conservation?
Yeah, so it's a big topic. I would say like one of the big things that's really happened in the last 5 years is recognition of the role local communities and indigenous peoples play in achieving conservation outcomes. So this is kind of this is a huge blind spot for conservation for a long time, but this is something that's really changed. And we saw it, the first day.
Michael Painter from
yeah, exactly, talking about this. This is like a huge trend. Another is, again, the rise of the availability of big data and like technology. So we can see what's going on now. So we can see like what companies are doing what, and track down like where commodities are coming from. So that's really important. Another thing is valuing nature. So looking at the value of nature in terms of like human well-being. So that's both like mental, health, kind of everything across the board. And so that's a really important trend as we try to figure out how to save nature. There are a bunch more, but I think those are the three I would call out right now.
Great, and that's a perfect segue, because the next conversation is going to be all about how do we value nature and what is happening on that front. Well, is there anything else you want to say to our audience before we wrap up? I just feel like I want to thank you, because your work is so obviously critical and powerful, and it's been a long road, and your success, as I said, gives me a great deal of hope. I am sort of curious, as some of the creatures have been popping up on the screen, if you could tell us who and what they are and where they are as we maybe go through them a little faster.
Yeah. I mean, so these are just a bunch of random photos I've taken over the years, because I didn't want to have a problem not having photos again, so I just take photos a lot now. And I thought if you didn't want to look at us, you could like look at that. So that would be nice. But I guess like one thing just to think about is read something before you share it on social media, because it's such a problem with fake news and misinformation. It's important to actually think about what you're sharing before you share it. So that's my takeaway, I guess.
Super critical. I'm trying to take over the controls. Hold on. What do we got here? Okay. I'm so curious. Who's this?
Okay. That's a lemur from Madagascar.
Oh.
Yeah, those guys, their habitat is getting hammered.
Gorgeous. Where's this?
That's Banff.
Yeah. Right, just over the border. And this guy.
That's a frigate bird in the Galapagos.
So beautiful.
They're quite loud.
Quite loud?
Yeah.
We need audio next time. This?
That's a tarsier. That's from Indonesia.
Oh. Mushroom?
It's a mushroom. Those are from Southeast Asia. That one's in China, but wow. That's how they release their spores.
Beautiful.
Baobabs in Madagascar. Silverback gorilla.
In Congo or?
That was in Gabon.
Gabon.
Whales off of right whales off of South Africa. That's a mine, a illegal gold mine in Indonesia. That's like a tailing pit. It's Banff again. That's just the forest.
It's beautiful. Oops. Did we skip the bird?
Yeah, it's a cock of the rock from Peru.
Oh, incredible. Okay, I better cut us over. Okay. We're way over time, but I just had to ask and go through those. They're so beautiful. So thank you so much, Rhett, for being with us and for everything that you do. Please join me in thanking Rhett Butler. Oh. Thank you. Thank you.